are claiming it was a British false flag attack. We're supposedly the good guy. But how many countries do we have to take out the leaders of and devastate militarily before we become the bad guy? Putin's helping Syria because he's seen a series of events that are leading to one thing. And that's regime change in any country that doesn't get along with the West. Which means eventually there's going to be an attempt to have regime change in Russia. Because the Democrats in particular, we got some of the warmongers on the Republican side, because there's a lot of those over there too. But the Democrats for 2 years at least have been trying to pick a fight with Russia. The time President Trump has been in office, nothing or very little has gone the way he said it would in the campaign. Obamacare's still there, even though it was supposed to be repealed by now. The tax cuts were for corporations and barely anything for the individual. How's that paycheck looking? Now we have a escalation of war in Syria. And this time, we're killing Russians on the way to this escalation. Let me play you the clip as I go to break here, and we'll be back after this. Just to remind you.
This administration announced a nuclear posture review that has put Russia on notice that we're going to recapitalize our deterrent force in Syria. Now, a handful of weeks ago, the Russians met their match, and a couple hundred Russians were killed.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John Lebang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
Powerful. Epic music by Toothbox Roll. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
Okay, fellas, let's play smart out here.
Yeah, we all know how to play hockey. I've never played before. Okay, well, most of us know how to play.
Welcome to Virtual Infinity.
So much for my fear of drowning. Now what do?
I say we really know best. What do I owe the pleasure of this whiz? We got a big problem here. Run, Leroy, run.
Don't let it grab you.
Holy faces! Oh!
Counting this plane, Virtual Infinity. A special presentation of the John Lebang Show.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Forces of darkness, the treasonable Mayans who collaborate must, can, and will be wiped from the face of the earth.
There have been a number of these attacks. In many cases, we don't have troops. We're not engaged on the ground there. So I cannot tell you that we had evidence, even though we certainly had a lot of media and social media indicators that either chlorine or sarin were used. I believe there was a chemical attack, and we're looking for the actual evidence. The OPCW, this is the Organization for the Chemical Weapons Convention. We're trying to get those inspectors in. If we get them in, if the regime will let them in, we will not know who did it. They can only say that they found evidence or did not.
As you heard in the clip, General Mathis says they can't prove who would have launched the chemical attack. They don't have evidence that it was Assad. They're assuming. And even if there was a chemical attack and the inspectors found whatever nerve agent was released, they couldn't prove who sent it, who attacked who with that. So we have Assad who's winning a war, and the so-called rebels are in the last days of their existence in this war. It won't be long with Russian help to defeat the last of these rebels. Yet we're told that he uses chemical weapons, but he's winning the war. Chemical weapons on innocent. Now remember, this is one of the last strongholds of the enemy of Syria, the rebels. And you're telling me innocent women and children are being killed by Assad in these places when the enemy is there too. Now, we fired off a bunch of missiles. We just heard the report today. We didn't see Mathis at the report this morning either. And for those of you who are getting a later version of the John Lebang Show, you're getting the rebroadcast on a syndicated station. Today's Saturday, the 14th. So I'm speaking to you from the point of view of today, what we know or what I know of today. So Mathis says, and General Mathis is a war hero, and he says openly that they don't know who did this. They're assuming it's Assad. And even if they found out what kind of gas was actually used, because they're, again, guessing, most of their reports were taken from where? Social media and the mainstream media.
There have been a number of these attacks. In many cases, we don't have troops. We're not engaged on the ground there. So I cannot tell you that we had evidence, even though we certainly had a lot of media and social media indicators that either chlorine or sarin were used.
Those manufacturers of news, they can't prove that Syria was going to be the one who released that agent anyways. So there's no way to prove who would have done this if this heinous act actually happened. Because video can be made up, folks, and I'm not saying this event is some kind of made-up situation, some hoax. But we're in the day and age where videos and pictures and everything can be manipulated so well to look as if it is real. Now, we're going to assume that there was a chemical attack there because that's what we're being told. But we're also being told that we don't exactly know who did it. We're assuming it was Assad and his group, although Assad's winning the war and wouldn't need to stoop to this level of warfare when you have the Russians and their army, whatever's left of it, pretty much finishing off these last remnants of the so-called resistance in Syria.
I think quite apart from all that, the debate that seems to be missing from this is, and this was actually mentioned by the ambassador, was what possible motive might have triggered Syria to launch a chemical attack at this time in this place. The Syrians are winning. Don't take my word for it. Take the American military's word for it. General Virgil, the head of CENTCOM, he said to Congress the other day, Assad has won this war, and we need to face that. So, and then you got last week the statement by Trump, or the tweet by Trump, that America had finished with ISIL and we were going to pull out soon, very soon.
But I've been covering Syria for years. Almost, as long as it's been going on. So when you're telling me that all of a sudden, a chemical attack happens in a country that is winning a war against the rebels, and it hits in a city that is dominated by bad guys, and it just happens to kill innocent women and children. They just happen to be in the way. No bad guys were hit. According to the mainstream media. So, Syria, who's winning a war with the aid of Russia, is so inept when they fire a chemical weapon, they totally miss the bad guys and they kill only the innocent women and children. Is that a possibility? Sure. We want to play devil's advocate here. Sure. Is Assad crazy enough to do these sort of things? Probably. But there's no reason to. He was winning. The winning side is so desperate that they're going to target chemical weapons at bad guys because this is being glossed over by the mainstream manufactured news, and that's what I'm going to talk about in the fourth segment. Is how the mainstream manufactured news is covering this entire facade. But you tell me Syria is going to attack the last vestiges of the enemy, and they totally miss the bad guys, and they kill only the innocent women and children. That's what you're telling me. And that gives us a reason to strike. And let's not forget, folks, that this is beyond what's going on here. It wasn't but February, and we just played the audio. Here, I'll play it again, just so you remember.
This administration announced a nuclear posture review that has put Russia on notice that we're going to recapitalize our deterrent force in Syria. Now, a handful of weeks ago, the Russians met their match, and a couple hundred Russians were killed. The list of actions that this administration has taken, I'm happy to walk through each of them, but I don't want to take up much more time.
And I appreciate
the list
that.
is pretty long, man.
And I certainly agree with that, and I think those actions are important.
So in February, we had some sort of engagement with the Russians, and we wiped out their, a bunch of Russians. I don't know what it was, right? They're not telling us a whole lot of what it was. I don't think it was the Olympic team because, I don't know. Maybe it was the Olympic team. Maybe they decided since there wasn't really a Russian team for the Olympics that they'd send them to Syria for some reason. Maybe there was Syrian Olympics. I don't know. The forces that were destroyed, killed in Syria, the Russian forces, were definitely military forces. What else would be there? It's not going to be some Russian rock band. Remember, we had the Arab Spring, and this is kind of like, this was the last part of the Arab Spring. We're toppling governments all over the place. So the one country they wanted to topple and they couldn't topple was starting to win the war, because at least Trump, when he came in, started taking out ISIS, maybe just defunding them. But it looks like they took some hard military action against them. We'll give them credit for that.
Yes, we can.
But that allowed us to get deeper into Syria. And why are we in a sovereign country? How would we feel? This is just a great, I get these people that are, we should be there because of the innocent women and children. Do you want this? They try to make me out to be some non-caring human being here. Don't you care about those people? Don't you care about innocent women and children? I care about Americans first, right? I care about people from my neighborhood, because these are the people that I interact with. Do you think those people in Syria care about me? They don't even know who I am. I don't know who they are. We don't even know who did the bombing, who sent this chemical attack to who. We're guessing. And I'm supposed to believe all this. I'm supposed to believe, once again, WMDs, bad WMDs. Now they're being used. But these people online that just defend the position, I'm like, turn off CNN, turn off Fox News. You're done for. If you don't get away from those medias, you're lost. You're not going to get the whole story. Was it mainstream news that we killed a couple hundred Russians in the past few months? No, not mainstream news. They've glossed over that. Might have made it a little bit here, a little bit there, but glossed over. And that guy Pompeo, man, he's such an arrogant son of a gun, man. And he's going to be in charge. He's going to be Secretary of State. If they allow, it's just, what has happened to this country? It has changed so much, rapidly, digressing, degenerating.